Hello everyone, Ian Eliona here. Another day in Los Angeles, and by Los Angeles I mean Seattle. Revelations. So, oh my god, what a day that I experienced. Okay, so let's start with the nitty gritty. I went to the RuPaul event, danced for a bit. Like, the songs were amazing. Just the remixes. Wow, I haven't felt so good and alive and happy. And then at around 1:17, I try and use the restroom at the shelter that I'm staying because I'm still doing that shelter life, even though I'm so fabulous. And one of my fellow shelter people is cleaning his knife at the early morning. And like, I shouldn't have an issue with that, but it's like 1:17 in the morning and you have a weapon. Now, if you had your dick out and you were doing that, I would say more power to you because, look, I do it, you do it, we all do it, we're all men. And since, there's female stuff, it's not like you can have a good old time in your own carol. It just doesn't feel comfortable for anyone involved. And plus, it's a major turn off. So, no, not a penis, just a knife. So I suddenly just did not have to pee. I just was like, bye. So I go to the day room instead of, back to my carol because I'm like, there's something gonna happen. It just doesn't feel right. It just doesn't feel right to go back to sleep after you saw someone with a knife. With your penis, you can go straight back to, your bed because you would enjoy that. I'm gay, so I would enjoy that. But either way, I'm in the day room and I'm on X complaining like I normally do because that's just what life is when you're disabled and a veteran. Life is pain, misery, and complaining, and you fap constantly. It's the only way to keep sane. But anyway, while I'm doing that, I turn to the enter only sign and I see the same guy and he's coming into the day room with the knife. And it's just, dude, I know you're comfortable, or maybe it's either you're too comfortable or you are very afraid. And if you're very afraid, why don't you talk to someone about it? Because you've got a TV there, you've got plugs, so you can charge your cell phone. It's a good enough area that you shouldn't feel like you need a knife. But I'm not going to argue with someone who has a weapon. I just took that as a sign to use the exit only. And off I went. I skedaddled. I wasn't going to deal with it. Because the old people that were there, they didn't care. Because it's just like, you're doing me a favor. You're taking me straight to heaven. I can see my wife. I can see my kid that I lost. Whatever, they're just waiting to do that. So I try and call the Seattle police after I let the front desk attendant, just like, you handle that. You're getting paid for it. This is the job you wanted. You wanted to be the female at a men's shelter. This is what you deal with. Yeah, some guys with their shirts off and nipples out, and that might be scary. But this is what you also have to deal with. You have to deal with someone with a weapon, and you have to talk them down. Good luck with that. Good luck with that. So I say my piece, and she gives the West Coast. I love how the West Coast is so unaffected. Anywhere else, it would be. And she's like, really? There's someone with a knife in the day. Really? Like, are you punking me? Are you punking me? Like, does the knife retract like it does in the movie? Because if blood comes out of me, I don't think it retracted well enough. You might want to get that one fixed. So I leave Smoothie break. Okay. So, when I left you, I was talking about the incident where someone brought a knife into the day room. I let the front desk person, she was like, "Yeah, you handle that. I'm leaving." So I leave, and I go, outside. I call the police. I let them know, and then I go down to the Seattle terminal so that I can, you know, meet them there so they can say, "Oh yeah, we went by there, we checked it, we asked for the tape." It's just like, "Yeah, you had a weapon, you were in a crowded space with the weapon out, and it wasn't retracted or anything." So they're still going to review the tape. Look, I admit, I was not happy with this situation. If there's another way to talk about this, fine. But you can literally see him on the camera using the knife to whittle what I can only describe as punji stick. So, yeah. And it should be, I didn't start any beef with him, so why should I feel afraid? But we live in a world where it's divided between people who have weapons and people who don't. There's a lot of people who talk about gun control. There's a lot of people who talk about, you need more vetting, you need this, you need that. I say you need common sense, and I say, yeah, you do need to arm people. But sometimes you need to arm them with information and power. We never talk about education in gun control. We somehow avoid that conversation. We never say that the people who turned to violence were once young, impressionable people who maybe got steered in the wrong direction. Wonder what went wrong, so he wound up on the streets. He's out on the streets. So, I don't know. I mean, it's true, not everyone who's in the shelter is, sane. I mean, I probably wouldn't classify myself as well. I have terrible PTSD from military sexual trauma. And every day it's PTSD trigger, PTSD trigger, PTSD trigger. And the only solution is, obviously, well, why don't you get a house? Or why don't you get an apartment? Or why don't you move to a town where you maybe started a football league? Your own little football club. You can do that. Hang out with a bunch of dudes, running with a ball back and forth across the field. I complain about never talking to guys of quality, and it's guys are team based, they're sports based. They want to talk football. They don't want to speak about politics or speak about any of this. But the police never showed up to speak with me, and yeah, podcasting. I'll talk to you later. And so I have this situation where I have nowhere to go. So I go to, because I'm not going to go right back in the middle of the night with the lights out with someone who has a weapon, who just does everything to show it to me. Like, dude is literally parading it in front of me. Whatever. Right, someone handed him a cigarette. Okay. I'll try to be quick about this. button, the lights are off, and it's just, what is going on in Seattle that you don't have enough police? What is that? Because I just grilled them for information because it's what I do. It's my job now. With other people. And it's like, yeah, yeah, could you just like wait at the station and they'll get when they get to you? So I'm supposed to wait in front of a police station, not in a lobby, not surrounded by police, but in a police station, just in front of it, with maybe cameras there, so there would be a recording of something bad if something bad happens, but there would be no assistance. Okay, okay. This is why I have this podcast, because I bring up that Seattle Space Needle incident where once again it was, I'm sorry, do you not have enough police? Because if you did, you would actually be say, okay, well, maybe not stop and frisk, but metal detectors. Metal detectors. My favorite place in Seattle is not this concert hall to watch someone play the violin. It actually has metal detectors. And when people skip the metal detectors, you can see that too. And for the most part, it's a library, so you don't expect someone to go buck wild. But that's the situation there. You know, I could go on and on about how the police are underpaid, the 911 operator is understaffed. But this is what you have AI for. You know, but it keeps talking about AI data centers, and this is what you have AI for. Some of these conversations, you do need a real person. Other times, maybe you just take all of the calls that you had and solve it that way. I'm ready for the upgrade. I am ready for the upgrade. I do not want to live in a goddamn country that has AI data centers and just says, yeah, we're just compiling data but not using it. And by the way, I head over to the VA, you know, because I have injuries and I'm stressed and I feel unsafe. And of course, just the way it timed itself. The guy before me in there, he gets the male nurse. I get the female nurse. Now, I already say to the female nurse, can you leave the door open? She's like, no, company policy. You know, we want to make sure that your records are being protected, so we're going to close this door. And I was like, I feel uncomfortable. I feel uncomfortable. And then to top it off, I'm sitting there and I say, I don't want vitals done because I don't want you to touch me. I just don't want females to touch me. After everything I've experienced, after being sexually, I just don't want to having a good time, and I was dancing a little bit before, you know, it just became overwhelming. And, you know, there were some women who were like in my orbit, like, hey, ooh, all that. Guess what? You could do that. I'm not stopping you. But there was no reason for them to touch me, and for the most part, there was no reason for them to talk to me. I talked to one girl because I said, "You're on my album. Did you know that you're on my album? Because now you do. You're on my album." And she was delighted to see herself rendered in such a way by random chance. But when you have beautiful facial features, the universe takes notice. Either way, I head over to, like I said, the nurse's station. I say I don't want vitals. She's like, well, you know, if you take the vitals, then, you know, we won't have to ask for it again. So I say, fine. You know what? You're so insistent. And by the way, there's camera there. You're so insistent. Let's just see your level of professionalism. Let's see your level of professionalism, because I am in my Okay, so I'm in my nighttime vestments, and it's a little cumbersome to go through. It's not exactly like I was wearing my Superboy gear, which unfortunately, because I'm so sleep deprived, I did not have a chance to put on. I just did not have a chance to put on. And that's terrible because I look so good in my Superman gear. I'm wearing this outfit right now. Let me show you my outfit. Blood pressure check. She puts her hands underneath my clothes. Once again, it's something that is supposed to be easy. It's not easy with my clothes. It really wasn't. But yet still, it's females taking liberties. If that was a male and he just grabbed some titties while he was doing a medical exam, I would say, dude, that's inappropriate. But because I'm a dude, I'm just supposed to say, just suck it up. Just suck it up. But either way, then we get to the temperature, and this is the part that I want to discuss with my channel because this is the part that's really chilling. She asked to do the tongue thermometer. I refuse and say, no, I want you to put your hands in my mouth. So she instead does the infrared, but the infrared is a gun. Like, do you get that? Do you get that? When you get your temperature checked that way, you're literally waiting for someone to pull a trigger on you. And is that enjoy a nice coffee? I enjoy a smoothie. But I enjoy my smoothie while I'm talking about this issue of we condition ourselves that when someone holds something that is gun shaped, we just let them pull the trigger. This is why I need to get out of Seattle, because Seattle keeps sending me to the hospital with all the drama. Like, I lived in Bellingham for quite a few months, never had to go to the hospital. Had to maybe talk to the police once. Once. Other than that, didn't have an issue. Come to Seattle, nothing but issues. I am a superhero, so you fight one battle, you escape one battle, and then you fight the next one. And the next one is I have to draft and present a referendum that is coherent enough for people. Because you can't expect your mayor to handle the weaponization of the people. And by the way, I'm all for you have a right to bear arms. But then for domestic tranquility, you can bear arms in your own private space to protect your property. If you're in a public space, why do you need to bring a gun? If you're in a public space, why do you need to bring a knife? Because if you're really upset, let's talk about that, dude. Let's talk it out before you even get to this point. Because maybe, just maybe, there is something that we could do. Maybe there is something that we could do if we talk to each other. And I know I'm the worst person to fucking talk about it because I have PTSD and it's hard for me. It really is. One of my poor little, I want to say sweet mates there at the shelter, I decided after just days of ignoring him, days, because it's just like, I was never going to talk to you, dude. I was going to go through the whole entire time and just not even say hi. Because you never said hi to me, I don't have to say hi to you. But today I said, you know what, it's lunch. Let's start with something simple. So I said, what was for lunch today? And he responds with, you stare a lot, dude. Your eyes are so intense. And it's because I don't do drugs and everybody else is on meth or everyone else is smoking pot. Now, I love that drugs are encouraged. Let's say encouraged here in the West Coast. You got that meth Viagra. You got I don't know, alcohol. You got cigarettes. You got marijuana. You got all the stuff is here. Except you don't have the common decency to head to the voting booth to continue that. Because while you're kumbayaing it, people are still upset and they're not in on it. Now, if you wanted a population that all did this, great. But if you don't, well, think of it as you have that extra impetus to maybe get involved. A little bit, just a little bit. I don't agree with the weird, like, follow me into the men's room as a woman to reenact something that will be in the future, but because that's what this is. I mean, I've been podcasting about there was a woman in the bathroom and she held something toward me, and it's just okay. You got it. You got the men's bathroom. Men were in it, and one of them had a weapon. And yeah, I know it's my fault for fucking associating in this particular fucking situation where I'm so down to earth that I want to be salt of the earth, but not live a salt of the earth kind of life. I love my smoothies. You can't take my smoothies from me. And I love my Starbucks. I have two loves in this world because I can't find the one. I mean, not in Seattle. That just seems impossible. Smoothie break. I don't know. I want to believe that America is awake sometimes. That you celebrated that 250th, and you celebrated it because you wanted it to continue. But how can we continue without talking about this war that is going on? The West Coast and some of these places are running drills. It's not a mass shooting, that's a drill. Did you get that? You're practicing. You're convincing people to bear arms who never would bear arms before, because that's the direction you think we should go, instead of saying, what in the world are you protecting that we couldn't manufacture? Seattle makes so much money, but they don't invest it well enough that this particular person didn't think that they could protect their own stuff. You live in a fucking shelter and they give you free food. Any cell phone that you have, you don't even really need. Even if someone took your cell phone, guess what? You'll get another. If you really had someone to call, you wouldn't be in a shelter. So why is it that we can't say, okay, do you still need a cell phone if there's one built in every wall, every door, every mirror is a cell phone. Get tech with it. I'd like to see us progress. I'd like to see America evolve past that base instinct of lock door, protect, castle. It's like you don't have a castle, you have a house in the middle of suburbia, or you have an apartment. It's not a castle. They charge you a large amount of rent to make it seem like it's worth something. It's not worth anything. Because most of you spend it alone. You spend your time in it alone. You eat sad food that you cooked in your terrible chef. Terrible. You should just let some of these other restaurants around you pay for your food, because when you purchase from them, they actually cook it properly. When you purchase food by yourself, you don't. You're losing money, you're losing value with all of this. Now, if some people still want it, fine. But you shouldn't have to struggle. You shouldn't have to struggle in any kind of way when you could just turn to your neighbor and say, could you spot me maybe 50% of it and you get 50 cents? 50% of whatever it is. Split a TV, split a coffee maker, split a coffee. The idea of quantity and sharing is not that strange as an adult. This is why we're poor all the time. This is why we don't have enough. Even though we work so hard, you just never have enough. It's because you try and do it alone. You think wife, husband, boyfriend, girlfriend. You don't say temporary business partner to get a pizza. Temporary business partner to watch a television. Buy a television and watch it. Share custody. People don't even think share custody just applies to kids and dogs and condos. A cell phone. It's a utility. You use it, but then sometimes you say, what is ownership if you really think ownership is 24 hours? Because you're asleep during most of it. If you actually used it for 24 hours, maybe. But if you don't, you're losing money. Share and share alike. So you don't want to share? Fine. Still half the cost. And have someone later on say, hey, could you maybe recoup me because I helped you? But if we don't help each other, we're always in this situation where people are overworked, overstressed. And they feel like there is no one there to support them. It's like, that's you. That's you. You could support them. It's a decision to make. You know, you can choose to arm yourselves to the teeth, build walls and sentries and line it with cameras, or maybe, just maybe, you could tear down the walls and say, I'm going to put down a blanket and have a picnic. One has a little less bloodshed. I like to think the value of human life is more than just using each other as human shields because there's someone who holds your place of work or your school hostage with gun violence. Can we talk about this? Can we have an open town hall meeting to discuss happiness in America? Because you elect people, and when you elect people, you expect them to maybe follow through on their campaign promises, but really, you just tell someone you won the office. It's like an apartment lottery. You won an office. Maybe you do something in that office, or maybe you don't, but because no one really likes to get involved, you're sitting there for days, weeks, months, years. And then maybe in the next election, they just choose you again because they don't want to get involved. That's a bad position to put yourself in as an American. Either you take the reins and control, or you talk to each other and just hash it out. You're not going to agree on everything, but there are some things you would. Some things that are just common sense to both sides of an argument. Three sides of an argument. There's just common sense. Some things you can agree upon. Find that. My name is Eni Leona. I'm an environmentalist, a human rights activist, a mutant werewolf. Oh, I am an environmentalist, trying to be an environmentalist. I try and recycle, I try and pick up litter. I encourage you to do so. I'm a veteran with PTSD from military sexual trauma. I'm not getting any better. No, I just felt violated over and over again at the VA hospital. And I know in a way it's, you're a smart person. Why in the world are you running toward Western medicine when you're Asian? Just use your chi. I wish there was a simpler way of saying that. I'll probably unpack that on the next one. I hope to see you on the next podcast. Kisses.